Okay, let's talk about assignment 4. So what I'm asking you to do for this assignment is to create a 2-minute composition using sound samples that you either recorded yourself or that you found. And these sound samples can really be anything you want them to be. They could be a little chunk of a song that you found, a little chunk of a speech that you've heard or recorded or found. You can really take any YouTube video and turn it into a sound file, and you probably already know how to do it. Just Google YouTube to WAV or YouTube to MP3. MP3 is lower quality, but it would be all right. If you can convert it to a higher quality sound, that's better. And then otherwise, you can use a website like this called Freesound. You do have to create an account, but then you can download. Once you've created an account, you can download any sound sample that people have uploaded. Now the quality is sometimes good, sometimes rough, but you can listen to them, and a lot of it is perfectly good, and there's just a lot of stuff in here, and it's constantly being updated. So that's one place, and then let's get rid of all this. Right, and then what I want you to do is to use at least 3 samples, and I want you to create 2 audio tracks and then 2 separate tracks for effects. And so what does that look like? Well, let's say I have 2 tracks. I'm going to call this nature sounds, and the next one I will call piano sounds. Okay, so those are my actual audio tracks. So I will have some maybe some nature sounds that I found, and then some piano sounds over here, and then I will have 2 separate tracks at least that only have effects. So for example, reverb and pitch shift, and then you'd want to have, in this case, an additional track for your clean sound. And this is one way to structure things. But I do like having, if you're going to do work this way, it's nice to have a clean track so you keep things organized and easily recognizable and manageable. So then I would absolutely suggest you change colors to keep, to be sure to keep things nice and clear. Maybe give effects a certain kind of color, and maybe the tracks a different kind of color. And again, you do this by right-clicking and changing colors. You can also, if you want to do things like change the size so that you have kind of a different look for things that actually have sound in them versus things that do not. You can, by the way, add icons to the tracks. So you can go down to track icon and you can choose one over here. And there's a whole bunch. So let's say, I don't know if I can find one that's nature looking, but let's just say that, let's see. Well, I guess I could do a shape of a microphone for that. And that ended up in the wrong place. Sorry, that's not where I meant to put it. I meant to put it here. So right click, track icon, set track icon, and I'm going to choose a microphone, open. And so that one now gets an image over there, and then I can do the piano. I will make it look like a piano, track icon. And surely there's a piano here somewhere. I guess you can search piano. Or not. Oh, actually, it's searching my hard drive. That's not what I wanted to do. Piano. I know I've seen a piano in here. There it is. Piano. Oh, that's a really very hardly recognizable piano. But anyway, you can look through the images and you can actually add your own. But if you want it to label this way, that's another way to do it. And of course, you can, in addition to this, also change the color, and etc. Now the names will be put here kind of sideways. So I don't use this type of visualization very much. I kind of like it to be a little bit, I just like the names, but that just depends on what you want to do. Okay. So I am going to change the colors, and I am going to Do the same for all these, just so I have a visual reference. And there's my clean sound. I actually undid this, so I'm going to retype clean. Okay. And so once you're done with this, then make sure that you send, that you manage your sends. So let's say you want your nature sounds to also go to reverb, then you can do it one of two ways. You can either click on route and then add send it to the reverb. So now effectively you're adding a send to this track. You're saying send to reverb, and you're also adding a receive to the reverb. So now the reverb is receiving from nature. Okay. And let's say the piano, you want it to go to reverb, as well as you also want it to go to pitch shift. And of course, in both cases, you also want it to go to clean. So let's actually deal with that, to clean. And then one thing I didn't do is I didn't uncheck master parent send. The reason I would want to do this, again, is so that it doesn't go straight to the master track, but actually goes only to the clean and then all the other tracks, which means that then I can choose the amount of clean sound that I'm getting right from here. Overall is in relationship to the amount of effects that I'm getting. So I would have to do that with the piano sounds as well. So again, I'm sending, I have a nature sound track. This is what it should look like, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't have to be nature sounds. You should have master parent, master send on check. And then you should also have two sends at least. It should be going to reverb or whatever effect you choose. And then the clean, if you want to add more effects, you can add more. That's not a problem. And then your other track should do something similar. It just depends on what exactly you want to do. And then in addition to this, of course, you have to load some effects. So in case of a reverb, you will go here and add a reverbate. And then in this case here, we would add the pitch shift, which is re-pitch. And so that's kind of it. This is the setup. And then on top of this, I do want you to use automation, at least for one parameter for each of these effects. So what does that mean? And I mean, you can go really crazy with automation because you can choose, for example, you can choose the amount of reverb, the amount of sound you're sending to the reverb from this track. But to keep it simple, let's just say you have a couple of pitch shifters. You want one to be an octave higher, and you only want to hear it at a certain time. You know, just do that using envelopes. So you can choose, for example, the volume of the track. You can choose the mute feature, so you can have it on and off, kind of a real clear cut. Or you can actually control the amount, the parameters of the pitch shifter directly from here. So for example, if you want the pitch to slide up gradually, you could do that over here. So you would show, it depends on how you want to do it, but let's say you go to full range. Now this becomes a slider, and if you hover over it, you'll see that it says 0 semitones right now. So if I add a point here and I slide up, it's now going up to 9 semitones, 12 semitones. So now from here to here, this means it went from no pitch shift to a full octave pitch shift. So you can get some really cool sliding kind of glissandi effect. Really, there's no limit to what you can do. So I'm not even going to tell you what to do because you should have fun with this. But basically, technically, when I open your project, I should see something like this. There'll be some items here, of course, and there shouldn't be any items here because these tracks are being used just as effects. They're just buses. They receive sound and then they send it back out with an effect. You're not actually putting any items in here. That's important. Okay, so you have some tracks that are dedicated simply to holding your items in place, and then the others are where you keep your effects, and then you manipulate the amount of overall effect from here, and then you have, and again, you can mix it and match with the clean. Now you do want to be mindful of what the overall level is, because if once you start to add effects and moving things with automation, what you'll find is that your levels are going to start to go way up. And actually, while we're at it, I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm going to go back to the project that I had before. And so I'm going to not save this. And now look what happens. Already this level is pretty high here, okay? Look what happens if I start to, I don't know, increase the level of the drums, okay? I'll do it from here. Right? Now it's distorting like crazy, okay? Because remember, it's not just 2 tracks. Now we have the sound of the synth, but we also have the sound of the synth an octave up, and that is adding volume. And then there's the sound of a synth an octave down, there's the reverb, so there's a lot more, which is why the level keeps going up and up and up and up. So if you're happy with the balance, but you're not happy, of course, about the fact that it's distorting, one trick that I use often is I select the whole thing, I select all the tracks, and then I just lower everything. I just grab one slider, and that lowers everything by the same amount. So that means I get to keep my balance, but I avoid distortion. So I'm gonna check these. Yeah, so this is definitely on the high side. It would be best to go a little lower, somewhere around 6 would be good. -6 actually, -6 would be good. But as long as you're not distorting, and as long as you're not going to be adding anything else after, you're okay. Just don't, basically try to leave yourself a little bit of room, because the sounds do sometimes spike, and you don't realize until you're rendering it that all of a sudden, right towards the end, there's like a little increase in volume for whatever reason. Often automation can do that. You add like an effect, a little more of an effect, and then suddenly it distorts everything. Okay. So label everything nicely, make sure everything has a name, make sure when I open a project that I can see exactly what it is that you were doing. And then as far as submitting your project, I want the whole project. So I want you to send me the Reaper file with every file that you've used. So once again, I've been through this a couple times already, but I will reiterate. Right before you're about to submit your project, go to File and go to Save Project As, and then make sure that you choose this option, copy all media into project directory. And I would say go ahead and do this in a separate folder so that you have kind of a submission folder. So go to, let's say, your desktop, and then you create a subdirectory for the project, and then give it whatever name you want, and then make sure this box is checked. Again, this is optional if you wanted to create a subfolder. And then what Reaper will do is it will make copies of every file that you've used wherever they're located on your computer, and it will stay there. And then take that folder and zip it, or take the files and zip them into a folder, so that when you upload it, you're not uploading 10 different files, you're just uploading one. Okay, do keep in mind that Reaper creates these additional files. You can see them here kind of grayed out. One is called the BAK file. That's just a backup file, so I don't need that. And the other ones are RiaPeaks file. Those are just images. So don't send me this thinking you've sent me a WAV file, because this here, for instance, is not a WAV file. It has no sound whatsoever. It's just a tiny image that Reaper creates. Now, the one I do need, in this case, if I was to send you this project, you would need the one called Reaper stems contact.wav. So it has to end with WAV or AIFF, not RiaPeaks. Okay. All right, and I think that's all that I want to say about this. If you have any questions, let me know.